you join me today at the wheel of a big slab of French, well, just comfort, frankly. This is a Series 1 Citroen C5 1.8 VTR, and very comfortable it is indeed too. This car is currently for sale at Stone Cold Classics at Rootham in Kent. Check out the link in the description below to find more about that. And now, if you like reviews of interesting and unusual different cars, then please do hit the like and subscribe buttons and watch on to find out more. Now, how is it going to pile through this corner? Whoa! Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and beside me right now, this sleek lump of Gallic motoring excellence is a first generation 2004 Citroen C5 VTR. Is this an exciting car, I hear you ask? And the answer is yes, for a number of reasons. Let's go through some of those and see what we think of it. Now, before we get into the review, let's take a moment to thank this video's sponsor, Car Vertical. Today we're driving a car that is for sale, but I know and trust this dealer. But if you don't know who you're buying from and need someone to get your back and check the car you're thinking about is what the advert says it is, that's where Car Vertical comes in. A car's history can be hiding all sorts of nasty secrets, but by searching through international government registrations like the DVLA, insurance and manufacturer databases, auction history and more, Car Vertical can see if a car you're considering has accident history, odometer fraud, even been stolen in another country, because Car Vertical works across 20 different countries. And maybe that'll save you a wasted trip to look at a car, or worse still, buying unseen online and not knowing what you've got until it arrives and then it's too late and you're into an argument with the seller. For a small outlay, even smaller, using my link in the description, a Car Vertical report can save you a lot of money if you discover your dream car isn't what it seems. It's got higher mileage than it says, it's missed recalls, or it's stolen or has outstanding finance, or actually used to be a taxi or rental car. Car Vertical's research shows almost every sixth hire car has been in an accident, which is not something you want to be buying. To see if a car you're looking at has a hidden past the seller doesn't want to share, click the link in the description below for 10% off your report and maybe save yourself a world of hurt. Right now, on with the review. Okay, so this big Citroen may just look like any other big repmobile from the early noughties, but there's more to it than that, because it's quite an interesting and unusual car under the skin, and it's the end of an era in a couple of ways. First of all, this model, which graced the showrooms from 2001 to 2007, this was the last car fully developed under long-term chairman Jacques Calvert, or Jack Calvert, as we might call him in England. He'd been at the top of Citroen since 1982 until 1999, and his influence made it very French, very Citroen. Later Citroens were a bit less Citroen, I think it's fair to say. This one also marks the end of an era for the bouncy uppy downy suspension. This is the last Citroen to have hydro-pneumatic suspension, in this case called Hydractive, which sounds like a bad guy from Thunderbirds, quite frankly. We'll go into a bit more about how that works when we're on the road, but just bear in mind that this is floating on liquid. It's not got springs, it's got liquid up in there somewhere, and in pipes and spheres and gubbins, which is also quite exciting. It's got one more trick up its sleeve as well. Now, in previous generations, Citroen had made their saloons look like hatchbacks. This time though, they've made their hatchback look like a saloon. So you get all the elegance, grace and style of a 3-box, but the practicality of a hatch. So massive boot, easy opening, lots of space, but lots of style as well. I mean, it is French after all. The only trade-off of this is it's not as much actual ultimate literage as a true hatchback, but then who really often stuffs right up to the glass? Only if you're going on holiday and then really just leave a couple of beach balls behind, it'll be fine. Don't take quite as many sleeping bags. Someone can sleep under the beach towel. Problem solved. The boot is pretty massive. I think the estate version of this car is the second biggest in class, and as a hatchback it is also comfortably commodious. These kind of company car vehicles, these mid-sized family saloons and hatchbacks, were always just so practical. You could just fit everything you could ever want. And seriously, looking at cars like this and the Mondeo, for example, how on earth can anyone justify an SUV on the claim of luggage space when you've got this kind of room? Anyway, you've got a big flat load area, bit of a lip getting things in here. Underneath here we have got a full-size, not even a space saver, an actual full-size spare wheel, complete with a Michelin Primacy Pilot tyre on there, which has never been on the road. Still got the colour printing on it. Wow. Not much in the way of side pockets, but we have got elasticy strappy things and little lights on both sides and lash down hoops so you can tie your victims down. Oh, and being the noughties, we do finally have proper handles inside the boot for pulling it down. Now, staying on the back for a second, this is an interesting conundrum for fans of the rear window wiper blade. Is this a hatchback with a regular wiper, or is this a saloon with an exciting rear wiper blade? Who knows? Can you tell me? I don't know. Looking at this from behind and thinking, gosh, that's a saloon with a rear wiper. I'm temporarily quite excited until I realise it is actually a hatchback. Oh, it's a conundrum. It really is. Now, the front of this car is sleek and aerodynamic to the point of indifference. It almost looks like it's doing some kind of eyebrows-only French shrug kind of thing, with these slightly raised haunches on the side and the little mustachio thing in the middle. This is actually a pre-facelift car. This being a 2004, it just missed the facelift by probably a matter of months. Before facelift, big grille, black bits, chrome bits. After the facelift, a flatter fronted, more aero, more smooth thing. I think in this configuration it does actually look a little bit reminiscent of a Vauxhall Omega, which is never a bad thing. Now, up at the business end, there was a variety of power unit choices. There was a 1.8 and a 2 litre inline 4 petrol. There was a 3 litre V6 petrol. And of course, what these things were really famous for was the diesels. French diesels in the 90s into the early 90s were notable for being some of the best smooth and economical DERV burners on the market. We had the choice of a 1.6, a 2 litre or a 2.2 all direct injection diesels. This though is the 1.8 or 1749cc inline 4 petrol, and that means it's making the grand total of 115 PS and 160 Newton meters of torque, and that means it'll catapult itself towards the scenery at a rate of a 0 to 60 time of 11.1 seconds with a manual, 11.3 with the auto, and reach a terminal velocity of 122 miles an hour. Which is all quite respectable for a 1.8, which is quite smooth and quiet and economical. Now, being the early noughties, a lot of interesting stuff is now covered with big bits of plastic. Here it says Citroen Hydractive or Hydractive. So underneath all of here is the exciting gubbins for the clever upper downy suspension, all covered by bits of plastic now with just access for filler ports. Over here on the other side though is the exciting word electronic, which I'm guessing means there's something electronic under there. One would assume anyway. Now, before we climb into the car, let's take a quick moment to look at the general industrial design of the thing. It looks so sort of sturdy and bulky and solid. The wheels aren't that huge. What are they here? These got new Toyos on it. They are 16-inch, but they don't look that big due to the design. It's a very, looks like late 90s, early noughties, little stylistic, almost gear wheel here in the centre of the alloy in the badge. But then you've got this huge black sill cover area, which is just properly chunky. Get into these big slab sides. The point of the mirror panel here is split, and the mirror is actually fairly small compared to, obviously, the size of the car. And it is a big, big car. Long back doors, so we'll have a look at those in a second, and the egress and ingress. Moving inside, nice sturdy door. Now, a thing that will strike you in a second is that fans of storage bins will be in heaven in this car. If you've got small items and oddments you need to keep somewhere safe, this is absolutely the car for you. Top buying advice. Now, okay, starting with the door furniture. First of all, we've got this lovely, lovely, lovely blue velour here on the door armrest. Slightly rubberized door pull, and then we've got a metallic, almost fish scale pattern going on in this extra Brightwork strip here. That is really quite fancy. It's tougher, harder touch, rubberized plastic finish down there. Big door pocket down here, and just quickly check out the size of these ignition keys. Vast, and you can open and close the windows. Oops. Just a crack to ventilate the car when you're away. How cool is that? Big speaker, and then as well as that cubby hole, you've got additional cubby hole. Extra storage, how cool is that? I'm liking this car already. One more thing, because this car is properly wacky in the old school French way, look, how on earth do you think this door handle works? Will it go forwards, out, inwards? No, it goes down. Who's seen a door handle who did that before? Not me. Love it though. Right, into the car. We have an embossed plastic door tread here with the word Citroen on there. We have a large raisey-lowery lever to raise and lower the seat, and the seat itself is a mixture of this same lovely blue velour we've got in the door card, and then a slightly harder wearing, I'm not quite sure what you call this. It's not tweed, it's not velour, it's not twill, it's like a harder wearing fabric with a nice little pattern, not dissimilar to the fish scale over here. Matches very nicely. climbing aboard. These seats are properly come home to comfort sumptuousness. Really, really nice. They've even got big pull-down armrests in velour as well, so you can relax fully. Now, there's no cup holders that I've found as yet. Tea-shelf arrangement is acceptable. This is the teacup rather than the coffee cup. Normally the red Furious Driving mug is full of coffee. Don't put coffee and tea in the same cup, it tastes weird. This is tea today. Good in front of the driver, poor in front of the passenger. Interesting consumer advice. That's a 4 out of 10 in terms of tea shelf. There's nowhere else. Interesting tea runoff cascade effect from the driver to the passenger. So if you want to play a practical joke, you could perhaps do that. Right, so as well on this large tea shelf area, we have got our big digital clock stuff going on here, and a button up here, and also down here as well, TM. Has someone trademarked the dashboard? No, it's Traffic Master. In the days before everyone was using a smartphone for navigation, Traffic Master would give you information about where the hold-ups were. It was quite a useful service if you were living on the road, like company car drivers' reps would have been, and still are of course. Below this little Traffic Master button we've got another of our little storage holes. This one has got multiple coins. Coin storage is something which has evaporated from cars today. Space for business cards, small phones. Airbag for the passenger can be turned off here. If you want to subtly remove your passenger, you can just sneakily turn the airbag off and then have a massive crash. And that's a good way of removing a passenger you don't want anymore. Top consumer tip again. Hope you're taking this all on board. Instrument binnacle. Lots of dials actually. Temperature, battery. Unusual to have battery in a car this new. Fuel gauge obviously. Very busy speedometer going up to 150. Tacho. Rev counter, but it doesn't say where the red line is, so let's assume it's above 7. And then temperature again, so that's oil temperature and water temperature. Then we've got our stalks, lights indicators. Oh, that's a very jolly little warning sound. Oops, side lights reminder. Why hello Jill. Wipers on the right, and then additionally we've got our radio controls down here on the right as well. The French do like doing the radio controls on the right. And on the steering wheel itself, we have got, a lovely, chunky, padded leather steering wheel. Feels really good. Little embossed, light satin Citroen logo here. The chevrons on the horn button, which is also the airbag. Wow, proper major parpage. That actually echoed that so parpy. We're impressed with that. And moving into the centre area, we have got, well, this is quite an interesting looking thing. It's like a big cathedral of infotainment and ventilation. A little point at the top like a church, the big hazard light warning at the top, big air vents, huge air vents in fact, and more of this metallic blue fish scale pattern, which is really quite nice. Radio is just AM, FM, CD, compact disc, central locking, and turn off your interior alarm. So if you've got to leave pets or children locked in the car, won't do that. Very big, very big area for your climate controls. Then additional storage, we have got our ashtray, which has never been used on this car. You can even see the little green light that's going to illuminate it at night. How cool is that? Shiny chrome inside here. And down inside this blue fish scale, we've got a tiny little rubberized, I guess, coin tray for sweets, whatever else you want to have. Now this is interesting, a pop out for the lighter socket. So if you've got a 12 volt thing, it's really going to be buried down there. If you've got short stubby USB adapters, you might lose it. Oh, nice little pop-up action on that as well. Very pleasing. That's, if you ignore your Traffic Master, get caught in a traffic jam, you just play with that for a long time. Manual gearbox on this car, which is a definite positive. Nice little shiny satin top and a rubbery, leathery type finish on the back. It's more of a rubber than a leather. Leather gaiter, looks good. And then coming down to another sort of matching point, topping and tailing this whole area with shiny blue points. Then we've got interesting buttons ahead of, well, this is actually sunglasses storage, I think. Looking at the shape of that, you could hide your glasses in there. Also interestingly, as well as this cigarette light here, we've got an actual dedicated 12 volt socket. I'm not ignoring those buttons, coming back to them. Finally, look at the swoop down action on this here. Additional cubby storage, so much storage. Now this is exciting. These are the up down controls for your hydractive pneumatic suspension. Properly exciting. I can't wait to go and push the button on this and see what it's like. Headroom in the front is absolutely huge. Let's see what it's like in the back. Now the rear doors are long. I think they're longer, in fact, just looking at them, than the front doors. This is like taxi spec. I wonder if they had this in mind at Citroen when they were planning this car. Maybe they'd flog a few to the taxi market. More velour on the door cards. Nice rubberised grip again, more of the shiny metallic blue fish scale. Electric windows on a rocker. That's quite an unusual action there as well. So unusual action on the door handle, unusual action on the window switch too. Climb in, easy access, big square opening so you don't bonk your head on anything. Step in. Nice space actually. Big space, lots of room for your feet, for your knees. These big recesses in the back of the chairs, all padded and velour, are absolutely lovely. Big storage bins in the back too, but that means there's lots of room for your knees. Really does feel very light, airy and comfortable. This is a place you could be in the back of for a long journey and really not have a problem. It's very nice indeed. Well, it fires up incredibly smoothly. Oh look, seatbelt reminder. Now we've got the engine running, let's try some uppy downiness. Well, I can feel it rising at the back. Oi! It's like a very slow fairground ride. Let's go down again. I can drive it up to 24 miles an hour while it's raising and lowering. That's kind of fun. So the 1.84 cylinder is nice and smooth actually. The thing you have to remember about this car is that it's very comfortable. It's not massively rapid, but it doesn't want to be. It's not all about that. It's about getting there serenely and in comfort. Okay, blasting away from that junction at a whole 0 to 40 in a bit of time. The thing we're noticing now is really the ride. It is just so comfy. There's quite a few potholes and repairs and things down this bit of road, and the car is just drifting over all of them really nicely. Yeah, so you don't really feel the bumps. The hydractive, as we're going to call it in this car, just absorbs everything. It soaks it all up and takes it in its stride so happily. Interestingly, the gear change is incredibly light. Almost, I would call it fluffy, in fact. It's a fluffy gear change. By that, I don't mean it's inaccurate or worn or bad. The car's only got 14,500 miles on it. I just mean it's just like a rubbery feel to the clutch, and a quite light clutch as well, and a very rubbery and light feel to the gear change as well. It's not like a direct MX-5 style snick. It's just a drift it from one gear to the next kind of a deal. Looking at the speedometer, it's actually a little confusing to work out at first where your speed markers are, because you've got the big white markers, the slashes, and then you've got the numbers in between them. And then what you actually look at though is the little round dots on top of each or next to each number, and that tells you where your speed is. So currently I'm doing 25, although you could be mistaken for thinking I'm doing either 20 or 30. Right, let's talk about this hydractive suspension, because it's really quite cool. This is the first time that a Citroen had electronic sensors all around the car instead of mechanical sensors to organise and sort out and run and maintain its hydractive, or previous generations thereof, suspension. And that means the car can be a little bit intelligent about stuff. It can decide that when you're on a bumpy, horrible road, it'll raise itself up a little bit. And if you're going fast down a motorway, it'll hunker itself down for better stability and aerodynamics and fuel economy. It's very clever indeed. But of course you can actually change your mind about things, and up to 24 miles an hour, I think it said, it's not letting me do it. Up to 24 miles an hour, you can change the ride height on the move. But of course, because people are idiots and computers tend to be more straightforward than that, there are computer lockouts, so you can't do it when you're going too quickly for such a thing. Now interestingly, and I will be the arbiter and judge of what is interesting here, and I say this is the car that stopped sharing the hydro-pneumatic fluid between all three systems of suspension, steering and brakes. Putting up to this junction now, the brakes feel very normal indeed, because they are. There's a number of suggested reasons for this. One being that perhaps the traditional Citroen feeling of the button on the floor where you dab the brake and go through the windscreen was not popular with drivers new to the brand. Others say it was a cost thing, others say it was a safety thing, because if you lose one system you lose all three. Perhaps the most likely reason is the fact that the PSA group had developed their own new EBD, electronic brake force distribution, and ABS systems, and that couldn't be applied to that system. So they had to use the same standard equipment as the rest of the PSA group. That would make a lot of sense if that was the case, but unfortunately the facts are lost to time. The whole 17 years ago. Who can possibly ever travel that far back and find out the truth? It is, of course, incredibly comfortable. And although it is a big car, it doesn't really feel particularly huge on the road. You've got amazing visibility out these huge windows. The glass area is incredibly tall. You do have a bit of a drop-off, in fact a lot of a drop-off of your bonnet area, so you can't really see what's in front of you as far as where the bumper lives. It's down there somewhere, but you know, anyone's guess where it actually is. I'm guessing it's in front of us, by the way. And rear visibility is excellent as well. The mirrors, although they're not huge, do give a great view behind you. Now this car replaced the Xantia, which was very, very sharp, edgy, angular design, pointy-nosed, very much a product of its time, early 90s. This replaced it with its pure new millennium sleekness. And in silver, it really does live up to that whole sleek design aesthetic. But it was up against some very stiff competition from the likes of Ford, Vauxhall, its own PSA rivals from Peugeot and Renault. The company car market was fiercely contested at that time. They've done really well in things like ride comfort. There's lots of storage, lots of space inside the car. It's more of a comfortable car than the dynamically perfect Mondeo, for example. It's more about comfort and relaxation and style. It did well on safety and security. It was a Euro NCAP 4-star car, which is very good at the time. And they actually managed to flog 720,000 of the things. Now, how is it going to pile through this corner? Whoa! Pretty good. Get a bit more power to pull out of it again, but that was very well handled for a comfortmobile. Okay, uphill. The 1.8 does feel like it's struggling just a tiny bit. It could have a bit more oomph to get by with, but on the whole, that's not bad. I could have thrashed it a bit more and it would have done it, but you know, let's not thrash the car. It's not that kind of thing. Spending a few minutes in this car at the wheel, you do notice how it has been ergonomically worked out as the perfect place to be for a long day as a business driver, or anyone just doing a long journey in general. The only thing missing is a cup holder, which is the standard equipment today, but back in 2000, 20 years ago, cup holders were not something every car had. Let's try these twisty bits again. It's really interesting because you can feel the suspension moving and working underneath the car as it goes around the bend, trying to keep the car level. But at the same time, gravity and physics are trying to pull the car over. But it does a great job of making the car corner quite fast, but make it feel very relaxed and composed and like nothing's really happening. That's quite interesting. You may remember things like the Citroen ZX Volcane, which was one of the most lauded and most vanished hot hatches of the 90s. That used the same kind of system but with mechanical sensors in it. And that was just incredible. If you saw one of those on a track day, it was just out of this world, the way those things just cornered flat, faster than pretty much anything else on the track. Wow, amazing. But it helps this car has got brand new tyres on. I think it had 4 new Toyos fitted just yesterday, I think. And so that does help give it an extra little bit of pliance as well. But oh man, this is really good. Properly plush and comfortable. This is a place to spend time. Now, although there were a lot of rivals for this car, a lot of them were very mainstream, very obvious. This was a car for someone who thought a little bit differently. They weren't keeping up with the Joneses, they were taking their own route in life. And that's something to be applauded at every opportunity. Whee! so much fun. Such fun. Such an interesting, clever, innovative car, but in such an under-the-radar package. Fascinating. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little ride out in this rather lovely, and I've got to say absolutely immaculately mint 14,000 mile from new Citroen C5. I've loved this. This is a car I was expecting just have a gentle little drive in and not think too much of, but I've actually really quite been impressed by it. So if you've enjoyed this, like and subscribe as always. If you love the channel, head over to furiousdriving.co.uk where we've got hats, t-shirts, badges, keyrings and stickers for sale. And yeah, join me again next time driving something completely different.